In the heart of a bustling city, where the sounds of car horns and chatter filled the air, a beautiful and intelligent woman named Sia stood poised at the front of the classroom, her marker gliding effortlessly across the board as she wrote out complex equations. Meanwhile, Alex sat entranced, his eyes locked on her with an unbreakable gaze. He was utterly captivated by her beauty, his mind wandering to the captivating smile that illuminated her entire face. As he watched her, he felt his heart skip a beat, and he knew in that moment that he was smitten. He was in love with his teacher. But Alex had a secret, one that he kept hidden from Sia and the rest of the world. He had been chatting with Sia online, using a fake name and profile picture. He had created the persona of Kanye, a charming and witty individual who had swept Sia off her feet. As the class came to an end, Sia bid her students farewell, and they filed out of the classroom, chatting animatedly about their day. Alex lingered, his eyes fixed on Sia as she gathered her belongings. He felt a flutter in his chest, a sensation he couldn't quite explain. As he drove home, he felt a thrill of excitement at the thought of their online conversations, but he also felt a pang of guilt. He knew that he was deceiving Sia, and he wondered how she would react if she discovered the truth. As soon as he arrived at his luxurious mansion, Alex settled into his favorite chair, pulled out his phone, and dialed Sia's number. She answered on the first ring, her voice warm and inviting. "Hey, Kanye," she said, a hint of excitement in her tone. "How was your day?" Alex's heart skipped a beat as he launched into a detailed account of his day, careful to maintain the illusion of his fake persona. Sia listened intently, asking questions and making witty remarks that left Alex in stitches. As the conversation flowed, Alex found himself becoming more and more invested in the fantasy he had created. He was Kanye, the charming and sophisticated individual who had captured Sia's heart. As the conversation drew to a close, Sia and Kanye made plans to talk again the following day. "I love you, Sia. It might sound crazy since we've never met, but I really do love you," Kanye said. Sia let out a small giggle. "I love you more, Kanye, and I can't wait to meet you," she replied. Alex hung up the phone, feeling excitement. As he drifted off to sleep, Alex couldn't help but wonder what the future held for him and Sia. Would their online connection blossom into something more, or would the truth about his deception tear them apart? As the sun cast its warm rays over the bustling school courtyard, Alex sat at a distance, his eyes fixed intently on Sia. She was seated alone, savoring her lunch while reviewing a stack of student assignments. Her brow was furrowed in concentration, and her lips were pursed in a subtle pout. Alex's heart swelled with affection as he watched her, his mind wandering to their online conversations and the deep connection they shared. Just as he was lost in thought, a male teacher approached Sia, a small gift bag in hand. Alex's eyes narrowed, his jaw clenched in a mixture of anger and possessiveness. He couldn't quite catch the conversation, but the teacher's charming smile and Sia's polite laughter only fueled Alex's growing unease. It was agonizing to watch the woman he loved being hit on by another man. Alex felt trapped, unable to intervene or reveal his true feelings. Sia knew him only as her student, not as Kanye, her online boyfriend. The secrecy was suffocating. As soon as Alex stepped into his luxurious mansion, he couldn't wait to hear Sia's soothing voice. He dialed her number, and she answered with a soft, sultry tone that sent shivers down his spine. "My love," she whispered. "How was your day?" "It was fine, nothing interesting, just the usual work," he replied, careful to maintain his online persona, Kanye. "How was yours?" he asked. "Any man bothering you?" He couldn't shake off the image of the male teacher approaching Sia during lunch, and he wanted to make sure he's the only man she's seen. Sia let out a soft, melodious chuckle. "Not at all," she replied. "Why do I feel like you're lying?" he teased, knowingly. Sia let out a soft chuckle. "Okay, fine. A teacher from the school approached me during my lunch break. He said he likes me, but I told him off. I mean it when I say I love you, she said, her voice filled with conviction. Alex's heart swelled with emotion as he listened to Sia's words. He felt a deep sense of relief wash over him, knowing that she had rejected the other man's advances. He was glad to know that she felt the same for him. Days turned into weeks, and Alex continued to weave his web of deception. Sia, on the other hand, had fallen deeply in love with the enigmatic Kanye. She couldn't stop raving about him to her friend Rose, who listened with a mixture of concern and skepticism. I don't know, Sia, Rose said, her brow furrowed with worry. What if he's not who you think he is? People catfish all the time. He might be using someone else's pictures, pretending to be them. Sia dismissed Rose's concerns with a casual wave of her hand. He's just a busy man, she replied, her eyes sparkling with conviction. But little did Sia know, her life was about to take a dramatic turn. One day, as she sat at home, a delivery guy knocked on her door, holding a small gift. Hi, Mom, he said, handing her the package. A delivery for you from Mr. Kanye. Sia's heart skipped a beat as she took the gift and opened it. Inside, she found a set of car keys and a note that read, "Go outside." Her curiosity piqued, Sia rushed outside and was met with a stunning sight, a sparkling black Audi, parked in her driveway. She quickly dialed Kanye's number, still in shock. "Babe, a car," she screamed, her voice trembling with excitement. "Yes, my queen," Kanye replied, his voice low and husky. "It's yours." Sia was over the moon with excitement. She decided to drive her new car to school the very next day. As she parked her Audi in the school parking lot, Sia couldn't help but feel like the luckiest person alive. As Sia stepped out of her sleek, black Audi, Alex's eyes widened in admiration. "Wow, Mom, your car, it's beautiful," he said, his voice laced with genuine appreciation. Sia smiled, her eyes sparkling with delight. "Thank you," she replied, her gaze meeting Alex's for a brief moment. There was something familiar about him, something that tugged at the edges of her memory, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. Shaking off the feeling, Sia proceeded to class, launching into her lesson with her usual enthusiasm. Meanwhile, Alex struggled to focus, his mind consumed by thoughts of Sia and his secret plan to propose to her. As the day drew to a close, Alex rushed home, his heart racing with excitement. He called Sia, and she answered almost immediately, her voice warm and inviting. They chatted about their day, their conversation flowing effortlessly, until Alex finally worked up the courage to pop the question. "Will you marry me?" he asked, his voice trembling with emotion. Sia was taken aback, her mind reeling with surprise. She hadn't expected the proposal to come so soon, but as she thought about it, she realized that she was ready. She was in love with Kanye, and the thought of spending the rest of her life with him filled her with joy. Yes, I marry you," she exclaimed, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex's heart soared as he heard Sia's response. He had planned everything meticulously, from the delivery of the ring to the traditional marriage ceremony that would take place the following day. As promised, the ring arrived at Sia's doorstep, and she slipped it onto her finger, feeling like the luckiest woman alive. Kanye had assured her that he would be flying in for the ceremony, and Sia couldn't wait to finally meet her fiancé in person. But the next morning, Sia's excitement was tempered by a phone call from Kanye. "I'm so sorry, my love," he said, his voice laced with regret. "I won't be able to make it for the ceremony today. Something unexpected came up, but I promise I'll try to come later." Sia's heart sank, but she understood. She knew that the ceremony could go on without him, and she was determined to make the most of the day, even if her fiancé couldn't be there in person. Little did she know, Alex was watching her from afar, his heart filled with a mix of emotions as he contemplated the gravity of his deception. The ceremony had been a beautiful, vibrant celebration of their love, and Sia had felt like a queen, surrounded by her friends and family. But as she stood outside Alex's mansion, her heart racing with excitement, she had no idea that her life was about to take a dramatic turn. Alex's call had come through just as they were finishing up the last of the festivities. "Babe, I've landed," he said, his voice low and husky. "My father will bring you over to my place." Sia's heart skipped a beat as she processed the news. Finally, she would be meeting her lover, her husband, in person. She felt like she was walking on air as she got into the car with Alex's father. As they pulled up to the mansion, Sia's eyes widened in awe. The house was even more beautiful than she had imagined, with its sleek lines and manicured lawns. And standing by the door, looking more handsome than she had ever seen him, was Alex. Sia's smile faltered for a moment as she felt a jolt of confusion. "Alex, you live here?" she asked, trying to sound casual despite the turmoil brewing inside her. Alex swallowed hard, his eyes darting nervously around the room. "Welcome home." I am your husband," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Sia's word came crashing down around her. She felt like she had been punched in the gut, her breath knocked out of her. She stood there, frozen, her eyes locked on Alex's, as she tried to process the bombshell he had just dropped. The silence between them was deafening, the only sound the distant hum of the city. Sia's mind was racing, her thoughts tumbling over each other in a chaotic jumble. She felt like she was trapped in a nightmare, with no escape in sight. Alex, her student, had married her. Without warning, Sia's anger boiled over, and she launched herself at Alex, slapping him hard across the face. "How dare you!" she exclaimed, her voice trembling with rage. "I'm your teacher, and you're just a boy. You've deceived me, manipulated me, and now you've ruined my career." Tears welled up in her eyes as she turned and stormed away, leaving Alex standing alone, his face stinging from the slap. Rose rushed after her, wrapping her in a comforting hug. "It's okay, we'll figure this out," she whispered. "And don't worry, nobody knows." But Sia's anguish only deepened. "I'm a teacher, Rose. This is against every policy, every code of ethics. He's just a student, and he's played me like a fool." Unbeknownst to Sia, a student who lived near Alex's mansion had witnessed the dramatic confrontation and had wasted no time in spreading the news. By the next day, the entire school was abuzz with the scandalous rumor. Sia, the respected teacher, was married to Alex, one of her students. As Sia stood before her class, attempting to teach, she was met with a sea of whispering, gossiping faces. Nobody paid attention to her lesson, they were all too busy discussing the salacious details of her secret marriage. Alex, seated in the back of the classroom, watched the chaos unfold with a growing sense of dread. He had never intended for things to go this far, and now he realized the full extent of the damage he had caused. Sia was ignoring him, and he couldn't blame her. That night, Sia and Alex's family gathered to discuss the fallout. The tension in the air was palpable as Sia's father, a stern expression on his face, turned to Alex and said, "My family has agreed to return your bride price." Alex's voice was resolute, his eyes burning with determination. "No, that can't happen. I love Sia, your daughter, and I am very capable of taking care of her. She's already my wife." Sia's gaze snapped to Alex, her eyes blazing with anger and disdain. "I don't love you, and I never will," she hissed, her voice venomous. "Please stop calling me your wife." "I'm not." Alex's face remained calm, but his voice took on a hint of desperation. "Can we at least try and see where this goes? Stop denying it, you are already my wife. Ask around." Sia's lips compressed into a thin line, her eyes flashing with annoyance. This little kid was not backing down, and it infuriated her. The meeting ended with Alex refusing to return the bride price, leaving Sia feeling frustrated and trapped. The following days were a blur of tension and silence. Sia and Alex had stopped talking, with Sia refusing to pick up his calls. But despite her resolve, Sia couldn't shake off the feeling that something was missing. She felt a gnawing sense of emptiness, a hollow ache that she couldn't quite explain. As she went about her day, Sia caught glimpses of Alex's thoughtful gestures. He never stopped sending her gifts and notes, each one a testament to his unwavering devotion. His patience was wearing her down, chipping away at her defenses. On the other side, Alex was missing Sia terribly. He felt lost without her, his days empty and meaningless. He longed to see her smile, to hear her laughter, to feel her presence beside him. But he knew he had to wait, to give her the space she needed. As the days turned into weeks, the silence between them grew thicker, more oppressive. One chilly morning, Alex sent another gift to Sia, a gesture that had become a daily routine. However, instead of simply accepting the gift, Sia decided to call Alex. "Why don't you give up?" she asked, her voice tinged with a mix of curiosity and frustration. Alex's response was immediate and resolute. "One can never give up on what he loves the most," he said, his tone filled with conviction. "I never give up on you, my wife." Sia's expression softened, and she chuckled softly. "You can come over, and we can talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex's response was instantaneous. "I'm right behind you," he said, and as Sia turned around, she was surprised to see him standing there. Sia's eyes searched Alex's face, her expression a mix of emotions. "I'm afraid people are going to judge me for being in love with my student," she said, her voice laced with concern. But Alex's response was gentle and reassuring. He pulled her closer, his eyes locked on hers. "Can we stop thinking about what people will say and focus on us?" he whispered. As they hugged, Sia felt a sense of resolve wash over her. They decided to give their love a try, to see where it would take them. The following day, they drove to school together, their hands clasped tightly as they stepped out of the car. The students cheered as they walked hand in hand, a gesture that spoke volumes about their love. For Alex, it was a dream come true, a moment he would cherish forever. Nothing could ever replace the feeling he had at that moment, the feeling of being loved and accepted for who he was.